Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So, we've had some very important news announced of Football Manager 2025 that it's been cancelled, unfortunately. It's a big shame. I know everyone's going to feel a bit disappointed and let down about this, as a few of the content creators out there totally aware of this, and I feel sorry for those that actually do this for a job and make this as their living. I mean, it is frustrating, and I totally get that. I've had a little look through the development update for it as well, to see sort of like their reasoning behind why it's being cancelled. I mean, inside the report itself, you can see they've basically turned around and said that obviously, based on the lack of interaction with us on social medias and things, they've had to do radio silence because of the stakeholders, the shareholders, and things like that. So it was only reasonable that they were allowed to release this yesterday, which was when the Sega sort of game conference was on in Japan. So I can sort of see in a sense of why that is the case, but surely you can work that out with your stakeholders to say we need to release this to the public, because I mean they would have seen that raw on things like Twitter, um, YouTube, other social media platforms like TikTok and things like that. So surely there was a reasonable request to say that as stakeholders, to say, look, I think it's right we release a statement sooner rather than later. Obviously, it was sort of expected, based on the fact that we had no update in January like we were meant to. Um, the date was pushed back originally from its release date to March, um, because of obviously the new engine changes and things like that. So yeah, it is a massive shame, and I'm very upset as well because I really look forward to Football Manager in itself. Um, as you can see, they've obviously said it comes to a huge disappointment, especially with the release date being moved twice. Basically, the game was there was parts of there was like elements of the game that was at the point of where they would like that, um, but there was other elements where it just wasn't to their standard, which is fair enough. It's a new engine, but surely this sort of thing could have been fixed a long time ago. I mean, I know you're building somewhat a new game on a new engine, but I'm sure with the knowledge and the experience that they've got inside of that full team, there was an element there where they could have said, look, it might not happen. Giving us the false hope of it coming out in March was a bit of a pain if it was in such a bad state when it was originally meant to be released in November. I mean, if they're still saying it's not to where they want it to be now, could you imagine how it looked in November? So it shocks me to think they were going to get something of a game between November to March. I know that's a good few months, and it gives them time to develop things. But if it's still in a really bad situation compared to what it was like in the November period of when it was originally going to be released, then surely giving us false promises to say it might come out later in the year is it could have been dealt better, in my opinion. Um, when I'm looking at this though, obviously they've had a little look at different things, basically saying what else has made them come to this decision. Things like they didn't really want to have people buy the game in March and then have to buy a brand new game again in the November, because that would be obviously when FM26 would be released for the November release date, like the normal release date. Um, obviously they took that into consideration as well, which I mean, in a sense, I would say hats off to them for being honest about that, because most game sort of creators really wouldn't care. There's obviously the big football community, which everyone's aware of. I don't really want to name them just in case I get loads of slander and hatred and things like that. But basically, they would release that game, whether that game had a million and one different bugs, and would work on that game while it's still broken. We've seen it happen for the last 2, 3 years. That's why I don't purchase that game anymore. That's why Football Manager is my go-to game, um, because it's enjoyable. Yes, there is bugs early doors, but then bugs get fixed very quickly, I would say, in a reasonable time. I'm talking between the team Football Manager has and that other football community, what they have. Football Manager has, I would say, a big development team. But the other team that does the other football game that everyone loves, they have a massive, and I mean a massive development team. So their excuses with how they can't release the game without million and one's different bugs like they do is crazy. Anyway, back to Football Manager. Obviously, they've all said about how they wanted it to be a lot better than what it is. There's many areas of the games that just didn't hit their targets, and they obviously did an extensive valuation, and as it's demonstrated, including consumer testing, well, play testing, sorry. We have clear validation for the new direction of the game and are getting close. However, we're too far away from the standards you deserve. So they're being honest in a sense, and I sort of get that. But again, you gave us a false promise more than once. So you can see why a lot of people are going to be really paid off about this. Um, they've turned around and said we could have pressed on with the release of FM25 in its current state and fixed things later on down the line, but that's not the right thing to do. We were also unwilling to go beyond a March release, as it would have been too late into the football season to expect players to buy another game later in the year. So this is things like releasing Football Manager 26 in the November afterwards. So I respect them for that. And as I said, a lot of other game developers would just release the game and expect you to do that because it's money. They need money. Um, well, in their eyes, they need money. They still make millions off the game through selling DLCs and things like that. Through the cancellation, every effort is now focused on ensuring that our next release achieves our goals and hits the quality level we all expect. We'll update you on how we are progressing with that as soon as we are able to do so. So once again, they're saying that they basically can't talk to us because of the whole stakeholder things, which is it's a pain in the arse because I get you've got stakeholders and things like that, but if they're invested in something that you develop, surely there has to be a level of contract there to say you can commit to your community and tell them more about the game and get them hyped. Because if this was my game, I'd be getting everybody hyped around this, making sure that they're pre-ordering it, making sure that they're keeping on top of every single update that we have for them. So the fact that all this has got to be ran by loads of different people is just it blows my mind. And then obviously they've just said thank you for reading this, your patience and your continued support. Our focus now returns to creating a new era of Football Manager, Sports Interactive. Okay, well, I mean they have been honest, but at the same time it is really frustrating with the false promises we've had in the past. They've went on and had an FNQs section as well. Um, like loads of little basic questions like does this affect all platforms and versions of Football Manager 25? Yes, all of them have been cancelled. For pre-order of the game, how do I obtain a refund? Tells them how to do that pretty much. They've answered the question that I think is by far one of the biggest questions I would ask them as well. Why didn't you cancel FM25 earlier when you opted to delay it until March? And this is what they said. At the time of the decision, based on the data available, it was our strong belief that we could reach our quality target level, deliver a game our players would be happy with, despite the delay. The challenges encountered beyond this point meant we were unable to achieve that. So that tells me something went wrong with the match engine, which I know these things are out of your control. They would have knew this back in November, in my opinion. Things don't just suddenly break when it comes to game creation. They have a level of being able to test these bugs. If it was as bad as it is now, it was as bad as it was, if not worse, in November. So why they've now changed their stance to say the challenges that they've encountered is beyond the point baffles me. It really does. Because if it was this bad in the November period, well, earlier on in the year period, sorry, it was before November we got this delay announcement, then surely back then it couldn't have been telling you that it was possible to achieve this. Because those bugs would have been either worse, if not the same. Um, so I'm not quite sure if I believe them on that point. Let me know what you think in obviously the comments down below. If you think I'm right in regards to how they're looking at this, if they should have just been honest and cancelled it back then. But I just feel as though it was false hope that we were given for the March date. I was excited, don't get me wrong, was really, really excited. Just means I've got to be that little bit more excited to get Football Manager 26. If they call it Football Manager 26 is the question. Um, Another one. An FM25 update was promised in January. Why the delay in sharing this information? So there you go. As stated above, stakeholder compliance impacted the sharing of information until now, which relates to Sega Sammy Holdings being a public traded company. I get that, but there is still levels of things they can go through to ensure that this doesn't happen, that they can release this to their community. The other one that's the big kick in the teeth. Will there be an FM24 update with 24-25 season data? No, as we said in October, when the game was delayed, this is substantially undertaken and would divert critical resources away from development of the next release, which requires our full focus. Football Manager, what the hell has gone on? You've given yourself an extra good few months now. You've got now until potentially November, unless you move it forward, to get the game to where you want it to be. People like FM Scout, Sorted Out SI, these kind of websites where the people are building databases, shows you that this isn't solid to the point of where you don't have just 1 to 2 guys that could potentially go work alongside of those people on the FM Scout websites and just get something out there for the public. The fact that you just said no is just, it is just a kick in the teeth. It just shows that there really is a lack of, I want to say, care from their side, and how they've actually dealt with this towards the community. And I feel as though it's a bit of a kick in the teeth to all us that bought the game. But obviously, I understand why they've said no, because yes, they're going to have to pay someone to do X, Y, and Z to get all this sorted with databases, player updates, potential updates, and things like that. But at the same time, keep your community happy and rescue what you can of it. Show them that you're actually a little bit more caring. Yes, you have been caring in a sense of protecting them and not selling them a game that's really, really poor with loads of bugs. But try and rescue it a little bit more and go that little extra mile and give us a little update for FM24. Surely, you want that game to be getting played more. Making sure you get more data from the game that you can bring over to 25 or 26, whatever it's going to be called, to see if they need to add more areas of the game that the data is coming from, like you like looking at when you do your analysis to adding and removing things to the game. Then they've asked, will FM24 remain playable on subscription platforms? We are currently in discussion with our various platform partners and licensors and hoping to extend our FM24 agreements. We'll provide an update on this in due course. That there, I mean, I wouldn't be too concerned if you people on like iOS and things like that. I honestly do think they will get this approved, because if it's going to get more downloads and it's going to get more people playing it on the devices, and all the other platforms, then that person ain't going to be against it. Let's be real. The licenses might be a bit funnier, but we'll see. Yeah, very, very disappointed. It is a big kick in the teeth. But I would like to know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know what you think about this this news in regards to Football Manager being cancelled. Right decision, wrong decision. Anything else you would expect it from them? On the plus side though, a Football Manager community by the name of FM Scout, one of those guys that creates the databases, has already released an update this morning to say he will continue to make updated versions for databases on on Football Manager 2024. I'll leave a link for their website in the bottom of the description as well, where you can get access to all the databases. Unfortunately, this will only be for PC and Mac. I'm not quite sure how it would work for iOS or anything other like the switches or things like that. But things like PC and Mac, you can get the databases from that website as well. Until then, don't forget, stay tuned to the channel, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready for some more of Football Manager 24 with different style of databases. Until next time, bye for now.